Imagine just waking up one day and finding out you are forced to live the rest of your life inside a video game. But not only that, you get greeted with a quest where you must conquer the world in a set time or else you will get vanquished to the Shadow Realm forever. Now that is exactly what happened to our boy Jaewoo. He was just a normal dude who loved to play Roblox, but now he finds himself as a level 1 demon lord peasant and time's already running out. Fortunately for him though, bro remembered exactly what game world this is, and here he must corrupt female knights and adventurers to gain stronger and even more powerful. Regardless, we get a flashback to less than a week ago when Jaewoo was still a normal loser playing video games all day and all night. But at that time he was too busy giving a 1-star review to a game he just bought. Initially, he bought the game called Sussy Dungeon Master for the gameplay, but we all know someone buying something that has Sussy in the name must be a true Sussy baka. Anyways, he was only a few hours in until he hit a brick wall and began raging like Prime Tyler 1 due to him being unable to defend his dungeon from a bunch of high-level warriors, so he's basically a sore loser. To make matters worse for him, bro basically lost his entire playthrough because he forgot to save, so he just got sent back to level 1 by a bunch of female kingdom warriors who look like they should just be Victoria's Secret runway models instead. Nevertheless, after receiving the biggest beatdown in all of history, he went on Steam Reviews to give a scathing 1-star review before going to sleep, since we all know it was actually all a skill issue. But upon waking up, our boy found himself back inside Sussy Dungeon Master. But this time there is no log out button or even a way to save the game. So welcome to the Walmart version of Sussy Sword Art Online. Nonetheless, as Jaewoo is unable to find a way to wake up and return to the normal world, he ends up getting ganked by a bombshell named Julia asking him if he remembers her. Turns out this elf-looking girl with very crazy large, spicy tender chicken breasts happens to be his #1 secretary, whom also informs him that she has been waiting for him to wake up for hundreds of years. After our boy discovers that he's just awoken from 1,000 years of slumber, he instantly remembers that Julia is the same supporting character that guides the player as soon as they load inside Sussy Dungeon Master, but in person she looks even better than he could imagine. But as he continues to stare at Julia's massive mounds while she's busy trying to explain to him what has happened to the world, she suddenly gets super happy and points out the fact that Jaewoo's woo-woo has grown incredibly more than usual. Of course, bro's a bit agitated that he just got called out like that out of nowhere, so he tries to play it cool and orders her to continue on, allowing Julia to finish explaining the status of his dungeon and what he needs to do. Our boy then learns that he can still place down monsters and traps in the dungeon just like the base game, but the main difference here is that he can also pop up in the dungeon itself, making it so that if he claps any adventurers, then he will be able to level up as well. However, mere seconds after Julia explained the rules of his current dungeon, bro instantly got up from his throne looking very sussy and ends up ordering his secretary to spread her cheese and crackers in front of him. Upon hearing his very sussy order take place, Julia gets visibly shaken to her core because she's probably thinking bro got a stinky log hiding underneath, since there is no way he was able to take a shower over the span of 1,000 years. Regardless, she freezes in place and refuses to do anything, whilst trying to calmly explain to the level 1 demon lord that now is not the time for that. But the dude is a menace, so he ends up trying to lift Julia from the ground with his own hands. He then tries to cosplay that Puff Daddy type of party by himself, so he goes and uses both hands to give Julia a 10-finger discount on the watermelon she did not have for sale. So things are escalating faster than I thought. After finishing playing with his secretary's soft pillow-like toys, bro whips out his awakened mammoth fruit and tries to slide it into Julia's forbidden fruit holder. But before he was able to enter it, a magical book appeared out of nowhere. But when Jaewoo tried to ignore it, as he is too filled with the ultimate Sussy Beka flow, the book abruptly opened and began glowing purple, where it then pushed his awakened mythical fruit away from Julia, swiftly saving her from the danger down below. Nevertheless, the Sussy turntables turn on our boy when he gets given a quest to become strong enough to do anything he wants against his secretary. But if he fails to complete all the requirements to do some rice cake destroying in 1 year, then his life force will go straight to 0. So to no surprise to anyone, bro quickly retracts his order of Julia, spreading that mac and cheese in front of him, and ends up trying to apologize, but before he could do so, she alerts him that humans are approaching the dungeon. Suddenly, the same book from earlier appeared again. This time it's giving him a tutorial quest to stop the approaching warrior party from destroying his dungeon. And if he is able to succeed, then he will get rewarded with a 3-star summon and 2,000 renown. But since bro has already played this game before, he decides not to put down any traps or monsters ahead of time and instead chooses to show up himself with no defenses, thinking that tutorials are always the easiest. As such, bro gets ready to face a full party of 5 adventurers by himself. Luckily though, Julia helps him out and reveals to him that 2 brawlers, 1 ranger, 1 magician, and 1 priest is on their way. after discovering that the party contained two females in the form of the priest and a brawler. Bro gets super excited, causing his dragon sword down below to have a massive growth spur again, so it looks like he truly is ready to level up. Fast forward 30 minutes later, inside Jaewoo's dungeon, we find the whole party already on the run, where one brawler already lays flat on the ground while both girls look like Jaewoo wanted both of them to have invisible armor. And as time slowly went by, Jaewoo continued to toy with the party by masterfully using his abilities to send waves of attacks that made sure neither of the girls would get injured. Instead, it constantly lost pieces of their armor, which showcased their precious assets. Eventually, the ranger had enough of Jaewoo trying to play with him, so he shouts at the top of his lungs for the girls to run from the dungeon, since this is clearly not a low level one, so it looks like this guy is a simp and is taking one for the team. Unfortunately for the beginner level ranger though, Bro is facing no ordinary foe, as Jaewoo is easily able to catch every single arrow from him with absolute ease, almost as if everything is rigged for them to lose. Our boy then decides to catch a whole barrage of arrows until the ranger was down to his last one. But since Bro is a menace, he ends up catching the last one only to return the arrow with a gift to his head like some kind of headshot only ranked demon. So now with only the pink-haired girl and the priestess left, our boy begins monologuing like an evil villain, telling the girls that he truly wanted some kind of combat experience but claims they were all too weak for that. As such, Jaewoo's words easily baited the pink-haired warrior to attack him. But when she mustered up all his strength to land a direct blow, our boy literally just put out his left hand, which easily deflected the attack like nothing even happened. She then continued on attacking left and right like a relentless ex-girlfriend who never got over you, but our boy entertained her by glancing each blow with ease. But eventually he had enough and decided to use his other hand to grab hold of her. Instantly, the pink-haired warrior dropped her giant axe without a single thought, and after Jaewoo placed his glowing hand right atop of her head, dark magic began to fly out of her brain like some kind of ancient magical curse. Mere seconds later, her armor began slowly disintegrating piece by piece, allowing for everyone to see how blessed this pink-haired warrior was when she was born, so clearly our boy knows her father must have been a baker in his past life. Nonetheless, Jaewoo finally removes his hand, and upon doing so, the brawler kept levitating in the air as if something is taking hold of her mind-body connection. So the only thing she could do is yell at our boy to let her go in peace. Unfortunately for her though, her words fall on deaf ears since she is talking to one of the sussiest demon lords you will ever encounter in anime, so she's out of luck, and the worst part is that Jaewoo ends up enlisting her in gymnastics mid-air. Now that the pink-haired warrior is busy going to the Olympics for such epic mid-air splits, our boy takes the opportunity to further investigate all the things this unnamed warrior could provide him, including the largest personal balloons he has ever witnessed. Shortly after cosplaying Inspector Sussy Gadget to check everything out himself, Bro ends up whipping out his blue eyes white dragon right in front of the stuck warrior, causing her to drop her jaw in fear of the monstrosity. But before Jaewoo proceeded to attack using his special Minecraft edition of his Ender Dragon, we learn that this pink-haired warrior is actually a girl named Andy, where she always appears in the tutorial as someone you will always beat. Now, throughout the entire time our boy got to play the game before he got teleported in, he always skipped the cutscenes involving her since you saw her often, but this time it's in person and these NPCs looks more enticing than usual. Anyways, our boy tells her to cheer up and tries to explain to her that she should be super thankful right now that she gets to do a sussy 1v1 duel with the Demon Lord, because it's his first time ever in 1,000 years. A couple blinks later, Bro stays true to his promise and enters his massive dragon straight into the Valley of Andy, causing the warrior to experience the greatest trials and tribulations she has ever went through in this fantasy life. Regardless, Andy yells out that the attack is too strong for her to defend against, but Jaewoo is not named J-No. So Bro continues his offensive like a rabid dog let loose, causing bright lights to shine onto Andy's face. After 30 seconds of non-stop attacks using his one-piece mythical fruits, Bro gets surprised that Andy is able to continue on since he did not know anyone could easily go toe-to-toe against his Prince Behemoth. Suddenly, at the 1-minute mark, Andy begins trembling waist down, so it looks like she is about to cross the finish line, but she tries her best not to, only for her to end up yelling that she is hitting the climax of the mountain. Now with Andy experiencing her first ever explosion jutsu causing her water fountain to leak all over the ground, our boy decides to stop his invasion as he does not want to break down a sea-level adventurer this fast. As such, Bro takes a 5-minute break to surf Reddit as he wants to know if Faker won this year's Worlds, and upon learning his crazy comeback as the unkillable Demon King, Jaewoo decides he wants to be 1-2 and proceeds to snap his fingers. In an instant, Andy found herself being dropped down slowly by the same exact dark energy that made her unable to move earlier, where our boy then proceeded to start round 2 of their duel, and this time he is not holding back. But in literally under 30 seconds, the menace chose to activate a hidden skill of his, allowing him to increase the sensitivity of his opponent's feelings by a hopping multiplier of 5, causing heart eyes to instantly appear out of nowhere. Bro then smiles and attempts to make it look like he did not do his eyebrows like a girl today, whilst increasing his attacking power level second by second, causing his opponent to continually jump from different dimensions of bliss. Nevertheless, Jaewoo's expertly aimed thrusts and swing attacks ends up making Andy go crazy, so she ends up non-stop smiling like some kind happy person, but clearly, right now, she is trying her best to control the Demon Lord from taking over. Unfortunately for her though, she succumbs from the perfectly executed ganks coming from our boy. So she ends up telling Jaewoo to do whatever he wants with her special valley, as it is now all his thanks to his never-ending abilities. Anyways, our boy ends up completing 4 rounds of experience grabbing with Andy before throwing the warrior back on the ground, as the brawler literally passed out from the sheer force of his Ender Dragon. And upon finishing, Bro shifted his eyes right to the priestess. After witnessing her best friend get destroyed like a piece of pumpkin on Halloween, the priestess attempts to create a holy barrier and places blessings upon blessing buffs on her, hoping that our boy cannot break it. But just like Andy, she faced the same fate, as Jaewoo easily broke through her strongest barriers, where he treated them like it was just some kind of silent fart to him, allowing him to quickly get into prime position for an attack. This time, Jaewoo decided to start off their 1 versus 1 duel without him having to resort to some kind of dark magic to make her levitate, and instead, he chose to sit on the ground with her to make this more like vanilla ice cream everyone is used to. Nonetheless, shortly after starting his ISO offense, we learn that the priestess of the party is named Amy, but even though she is just a C-level priestess at this point of the story, she is actually a Sanctus candidate. So if anyone decides to send her life force to 0 right now, then it is basically game over for our boy, as there will be a hidden mechanic that will activate where a bunch of overpowered holy knights will appear immediately to send him straight to Valhalla. But on the flip side, if Jaewoo decides to work hard and try to corrupt her to the best of his abilities, then Amy will transform into a valuable power he can use till the end of the game, since she will become a vital piece needed for the chance of victory. Back to the present, our boy decides to go the path of not ending the game right now and chooses to just play around with Amy, using the priestess as a real-life squish monkey that will one day allow him to rice cake destroy her over and over again. But as he continues on playing with Amy's squishmallows, she tries her best to break free from his grasps whilst shouting out loud that as a priestess, she knows exactly what he's trying to do, so she promises to never become a sussy baka. However, upon hearing Amy loudly proclaiming to him that she will never join his dark side, our boy just flashes a big smile in return and proceeds to point at her forbidden treasure cove, explaining to her that her cove is totally saying something different. Turns out he was right, so upon Amy checking out what is happening down below in her water fountain area, she realizes that she has had a leaking party the entire time, causing her to question whether or not she is actually true to her beliefs. She then proceeds to freak out like never before, busy wondering to herself if she has been living a lie her whole entire life, since she never expected to react this way even under intense duress, as she is always trained to become a holy one. Unfortunately for her though, her true sussy dark side continues to show itself as Jaewoo proceeds to teach Amy how to become one with her sussy Becca self by still playing with her tender juicy squishmallows. So with Amy having no explanation to what the heck is happening to her, the only excuse she could come up with is her telling our boy that he must have done something to her, knowing full well that something must be up for her to react this way. It's then revealed that Amy is actually right. She would have never reacted this way if Jaewoo never injected demonic energy into her, but since she has divine power within her, then the sensitivity levels must be going through the roof after the collision of powers. Regardless, Amy begins to succumb fully to the dark side, and upon seeing her almost cross into his realm, an ominous aura starts to surround her boy whilst asking Amy if she believes her god will protect her at her time of need. As such, Bro brilliantly executes his plan to corrupt Amy, and the first step is to willingly let her join him, so he does his patented spicy sausage whip out in plain sight, causing her to almost instinctively slurp down his Slurpee with no regret. However, Amy is able to catch herself lacking last second and recoils back to stop herself. So to big brain Amy, Bro ends up telling her he would never rice cake smash someone that isn't willing, as there is always someone else who is. Our boy then leaves Amy behind in a corner and finds himself moving towards a fully recovered Andy instead, and this time she really wants to go for another round of rice cake destroying, so she instantly calls in the dump truck. After showcasing the used dump truck to the Demon Lord, Andy ends up surprising both Jaewoo and Amy by turning around, allowing for our boy to start the duel where she gets to face Amy while giving her the best seat in the entire room. With no time to waste, both our boy and Andy continue another 1-versus-1 duel right in front of Amy, causing the priestess to wonder what took over her since her best friend always tried to protect her and hold her honor at all times. Mere seconds later, Andy began making faces that would go viral on social media, so she ends up asking for our boy to unleash all his lactose-free milk inside her fridge, causing Amy to almost want in on the action. However, Bro warns Ambi that if he actually unleashes the torrent of dairy towards her way, then her life force will 100% deplete to zero, but she does not mind at all, so our boy decides to fulfill the wish of the brawler. Now that the Demon King wants to be Santa just for today, he pulls Andy closer to him, allowing him to use up his ultimate skill against her to fulfill her wish, since he is now hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, because destroying Andy will give him experience points. After successfully landing his ultimate on Andy's protected waterways, a torrent of white liquid came rushing in to fill up every noose and cranny in there, causing Andy to collapse straight to the ground right in front of the disheveled Amy. Upon completion of utterly rice cake destroying his opponent, the magical book from earlier appeared before his eyes again, informing him that he has totally absorbed all experience points from the C-rank adventurer Andy. Suddenly, Andy's body began disappearing nucleons by nucleons, making it look like she just got hit by Shigereki's DK ability from My Hero, making it so the only thing she's leaving behind is some wet liquid on the ground right in front of her best friend. And since this was our boy's first ever completion of a corruption in his dungeon, he gains enough bonus points to level up thanks to Jaewoo clearing his first ever achievement in real time within this forbidden game. However, with her pink-haired best friend now disappearing into the abyss, Amy decides to take action for the injustice and proceeds to pray really hard in hopes that a miracle will appear out of nowhere to save her. Surprisingly, within seconds of completing her prayer, blinding golden light begins surrounding her, as if she is transformed into a conduit for divine power, causing our boy's Dark Knight Rises to hide in its own Batmobile for a few seconds. One blink later, after channeling for 10 seconds straight like she was somehow harnessing her hidden powers against our boy, she yells super loud, allowing for an intense pressure to come out of her mouth, causing a beam of light to come barreling towards Jaewoo. Amy's attack then causes a massive boom within the room, making it so that everything becomes dark for a few seconds, since her beam of light got stronger the more it sucked in all the light within the room. Unfortunately for her though, when the lights turn back to normal, she gets greeted by Jaewoo with his Dark Knight fully out again, and the first thing Bro does is he gives her props for an interesting power. After clapping for a few seconds, our boy informs Amy that it's too bad her powers did not reach him in time, since he would have preferred to have felt how strong her attack was, leaving Amy to be absolutely shocked in disbelief. With nothing else up Amy's sleeve now, she literally says out loud that there is no way she can win. So she accidentally parts her Red Sea in front of our boy, allowing for a bunch of moisture to come rushing out her sea. With Amy looking like she has finally given up, Jaewoo decides to raise the stakes by deciding to attack now rather than later, as it looks like a prime opportunity for him to use his corruption jutsu while the iron is still wet and ready. As such, Bro activates Loco in the Doko versus Amy, where he quickly removes the defending armor to allow his giant Prince Behemoth to rush in like a wrecking ball with such unstoppable force that not even the Hulk could stop its tracks. Now that our boy has finally entered the holy gates of Amy with no resistance at all, Bro is surprised to feel such soft, narrow walls that constantly beckons his ancient battering ram to continue on forward like some kind of catapult being pulled in. And with every strike of his dragon longsword hitting directly against Amy's broken shield, she accidentally makes weird sounds that would make any demon lord realize that his opponent is actually enjoying the rice cake destroying rather than hating it. Plus, every single blow has led to more human-identified liquid spilling on the ground, so Bro ends up raising his power level against Amy to make sure he can actually corrupt the second adventurer without making it so she disappears into the abyss like Andy. Eventually, Jaewoo has to pick up the massive marvel of a dump truck Amy was hiding and proceeds to go chicken dinner mode against his 1-versus-1 opponent, causing even more intense sounds to fill the room like it's a Friday night already. At this point, Amy was no match against a demon lord, so she ends up passing out when our boy maxes out the sussy meter against her. But somehow, Amy's bakery kept being a suction cup even with her brain turned off. As such, Bro continued on with the flow as he wants to fully engulf Amy in a gigantic sussy jutsu wave that would make everyone in the room right now have to learn how to swim, but luckily for the priestess, Bro ends up ganked by his secretary Julia. She then interrupts him, claiming that she has something urgent to tell him, but before she could even continue on, our boy asks if she is only here to tell him about dungeon points, causing Julia to be surprised. Regardless, Julia chalks up our boy's infinite knowledge by remembering that he is indeed the demon lord, so she should not be surprised, but she still ends up regurgitating how dungeon points works whilst our boy stares directly at Julia's crazy hills. And since our boy has gained sufficient points to add more cool monsters or traps within his domain, Julia asks Jaewoo if he would like to create anything with them, as it would be a waste to just leave it in his bank without anything being created. After taking a moment to really think of something that would be useful right now, Bro smiles and orders Julia to make something that would help him train his opponents to get corrupted even faster, with Amy still in his arms busy creating the Great Lakes. Fast forward an hour later, we get teleported to a different room within the dungeon, but this time Amy wakes up and finds herself missing literally every piece of armor she had equipped before her duel against our boy. Of course, she gets cold quickly, but then it dawned on her that she is no longer outside the entrance of the dungeon, but rather deep within it, as she can no longer see the sky, nor can she really see past all the mysterious mists swiftly rising from the ground. But before she could reorientate herself like Christ, our boy comes out of nowhere from a false wall to gank Amy with literally not a single piece of armor on as well, and with a smirk he places a Shark Tank offer sheet. His offer quickly makes Amy cry, since she refuses to believe a Demon King would actually just let her leave the area if all she has to do is make sure she does not try to slurp his 7-Eleven Slurpee drink in a span of 10 minutes. With such an easy offer, Amy begins to think that this might be harder than she thought, as she keeps feeling some weird tingly sensation pulsating throughout her entire body, and now she can barely bring herself to stand up from the ground due to some weird smell. After falling back to the ground to try and regain some composure, the Sussy book appears and informs our boy that Amy's current status is that her secret robot is activated right now, so it looks like things are about to go crazy. To make matters worse for Amy, her body voluntarily starts to do things she has never done before, making it seem like her arms and lower half have combined to make a new mind on its own, where it forces itself to do some exploring on her own Sussy dimension. Now that our boy is stuck watching his opponent cracking their own free-range eggs to their own accord, Bro gets mad and furious at Amy, as he thinks this is a way for her to protest not needing his forbidden Exodia. Luckily for her though, she big brains her way through his offer and reminds Jaewoo that as long as she does not ask for his USB to get plugged into her universal wall in the next 8 minutes or so, then she could be free again. However, Bro strikes back and activates his own Mega Mind by getting as close as possible to his opponent without breaking the physical barrier, making it so that his awakened mythical dragon is blooming right in front of their face without breaching any rules. Unfortunately, it seems as if Castor's curse struck once again, since Bro ends up manually helping Amy reach the climax of the mountain by reminding her how efficient his game is in summoning explosion jutsu on the opposite gender using 10 fingers. Nevertheless, Bro helped Amy reach the finish line so many times without having to activate his legendary dragon to help out, since it would be against the rules, but still Amy did not falter and made sure she did not cross the line. Upon hitting the 10-minute mark, a lit-up hallway appeared before Amy, so our boy actually stayed true to his promise. But when Jaewoo told Amy that she can finally leave, she ends refusing, claiming that she cannot go back like this. Soon after, our boy's opponent began crawling towards him, since they could not resist wanting a piece of his special spicy chicken nuggets combo, making it so that Jaewoo's masterful plan reigns supreme even after losing his own bet. Now that Amy is busy devouring Jaewoo's Raising Cane's Craniac combo, her eyes began to take over her, so we all know our boy's opponent is uncloving every second of the unrivaled Raising Cane's special sauce on those chicken tenders. Anyways, with the Sanctus candidate now entering the dark side like Luke Skywalker, the magical book reappears in front of Jaewoo again and notifies him that he has a new quest, since his opponent has fully submitted to the demon lord of this dungeon. After flipping another page, Bro discovers that his new quest needs him to also get Amy to fully submit her heart to him. And if she is able to serve him wholeheartedly, then he will fully gain her as a trusted ally in this world. Nonetheless, Bro is tasked to complete a few requirements to get Amy's heart fully submitted to him, since she is currently sipping some hopium, thinking that she is only rice cake destroying with him right now, just so no other adventurer has to face the same fate as her. One of the main requirements requires him to reach a favorability level of 100%, but the only way to do that is by him filling up Amy's quarters with a bunch of his sussy explosion jutsus over and over again. As such, Bro ends up cosplaying a gallon of milk and proceeds to leak a bunch of lactose-free milk on his very suspecting opponent. But as time passes by, the favorability bar inches ever more closely to 100%, whilst the room becomes even more stinky. After breaching a quarter of the way through, Amy has begun to show signs of entering the maximum crazy scale, as she started to take it upon herself to make sure the lactose-free milk kept flowing towards her mill. Eventually, at halfway through their favorability quest line, Amy's personality has shifted to a more daring and even more sussy type of personality, so it really do be like it is all over for the priestess now, since the foothold Jaewoo has is too strong to destroy. At this point of the story, the only way to get past the 50% threshold is for our boy to shoot his explosion jutsu directly at Amy's forbidden holy gates, but without him even asking her to, she ends up moving the dump truck on the banana peel. Amy then maneuvered her dump truck masterfully without needing the help of the demon lord, so Bro ends up using all of his power within him to send his energy coursing through to her, allowing for Amy to go parking on the banana tree non-stop. At 80%, all hope is lost for the Priestess of Light, as our boy's opponent has began pleading for the almighty Demon King to ravage her lands with no regret, so Julia ends up smelling the stinky sock smell 1,000 feet away. Finally, upon filling up the entire favorability bar, Bro drops Amy due to the magical book appearing before him, claiming that our boy has achieved his goal, so it is now ready to distribute his quest rewards. Suddenly, a purple flash of light exits out of Amy's holy gates, and within 1 second, she ends up getting reborn with even larger bakeries and hills than before, where she is also gifted a whole new outfit to match the theme of joining the dark side. It's then revealed that not only has Amy gained a whole new cool costume, but she has also leveled up since she used the job change coupon to transform from a C-class priestess into an A-class dark priestess, equipped with even more strength and power. With Amy fully awakened as the sussiest version of herself, she starts yapping about how she wasted all her time trying to devote herself to the light, but now she can finally serve the one true power of this world, which is Jaewoo the Demon King. Upon learning that Amy gains some epic wide area buffs, our boy's battle bus takes over due to him being the ultimate sussy backa, since the only thing he can think of right now is how nice and crazy her new dark gates must be. So after taking hold of his new apprentice's shoulders, Bro teleports both of them straight to his new refurbished master bedroom, causing Dark Amy to wonder where she is, since this room seems much more nicer than the rooms they were in before. Of course, our boy is quick to let her know that this is his new bedroom that he has been dying to see after renovations, so he wants to get comfy with her right now, causing Dark Emmy to shriek for joy as she cannot wait for rice cake smashing. Turns out though, this room is specially coated with the Demon King's special sticky white signature drink on everything, which includes the walls, all the furniture, and even the pillows, causing any opponent to quickly activate their sussiest levels. Regardless, with enough chit-chat, Bro reaches towards his prize as he cannot wait any longer, but before beginning their 1-versus-1 duel, our boy informs Amy that she is the first woman ever that he has taken past his dungeon. Mere seconds later, dark energy quickly filled the room, which caused the candle lights on the ceiling to light on, signaling the start of their sussy 1-versus-1 duel, where Jaewoo effortlessly teleported behind Amy whilst having his dragon's sword out. But just when we thought he was finally going to use his sword again, Bro ends up pulling a gentleman type of move by deciding to help her cross the finish line a couple times before unleashing the power of his legendary Prince Behemoth. Eventually though, the Demon King struck like he was lightning against the tallest tree, and this time the Dark Gates were 420% better compared to the Holy Gates due to how stricter and more insane entering the gates felt. At the same time, Dark Emmy began to sound like a broken record player that increased volume every second due to our boy's intense dark waves continually hitting directly on top of his new friend's beach, causing the Dark Priestess to hold on for their dear life. Meanwhile, outside the front gates of the Demon King's domain, a party of 4 unknown adventurers have appeared, but it looks like all 4 of them are no ordinary adventurers, as they seem able to pack more of a punch compared to the first 4. We then discover that a blonde girl is leading the party, while a pretty blue-haired knight looks to be second in command, but both of them are too busy discussing how this is the place where the Saintess energy was last cut off. The blonde girl then reminds everyone that although Miss Amy might have looked like she had weak divine powers, lest they forget she was still a Saintess candidate worthy of the strongest of all divine powers, so this dungeon might not be as easy as it seems. Nevertheless, the blonde girl with a giant sword on her back yells out for the Holy Virgo Knight order to rush in the dungeon, as they are tasked to retrieve the Saintess at all cost, even if it meant just retrieving a corpse with no life force. The knights then move in formation to venture forth through the dungeon, but each one thinks something is off, since this is the first normal dungeon they have encountered that literally has no monsters inside, and there was only one trap they stumbled upon. Suddenly, with the knights busy talking about how crazy easy this dungeon is, the leader of the party makes a remark about how the deeper they delve, the more she can feel an unexplainable creepy energy flowing through her body. However, they continue on even after almost transforming into a sussy backa without them knowing, but at least they began to recognize that this dungeon for sure is hiding something, as there is no way this could be abandoned with all this energy. Mere moments later, upon the blonde knight turning a sharp corner, she ends up finding Dark Emmy beyond a makeshift holding cell with her rocky mountains out and about, causing her to instantly run to rescue the priestess. But when the knights finally make it to the end of the hallway in an attempt to rescue Amy, we learn that the blonde-haired girl is actually the Dame Rebecca, one of the holiest knights in all of the kingdom, so there is no way she would leave Amy behind. So with the priestess looking utterly defeated and out of energy, Rebecca is forced to pick her up with her own hands and quickly orders her knights to form up and be wary of the surroundings due to Amy warning them to run as soon as possible. Unfortunately for the order though, the girls were unable to find anything, not even a single soul, so they still have no clue what they are up against, causing the Dame to order everyone to retreat at once as they have no time to dawdle. However, just when the Holy Virgo Knights started running back to the Temple of the Light, Dark Amy showed her true colors by revealing to them that she actually does not need any kind of help, and instead, it is them who will need it now. One single blink later, every single one of the knights fell to the ground due to some dark magic, forcing them to be unable to move, giving Dark Amy the chance to tell them that there is no way she can let the dungeon be revealed since it is not yet time. Nonetheless, with the knights easily defeated by one single A-ranked Dark Priestess, the last things the Order got to hear and witness is Dark Amy informing all of them that it is time for them to receive the Demon King's grace and be born again. Fast forward an hour later, we find the Dame by herself finally waking up from her quick power nap. But as she looks around the room, she is unable to pinpoint where she is since she has already forgotten that she was tasked to retrieve a Sanctus candidate. Suddenly, Rebecca ends up hearing an ominous voice from behind, and upon checking out where the voice was coming from, she gets shocked to her core after witnessing every single one of her knights get rice cake destroyed. Even her second in command was no match for our boy, so it looks like Jiwoo's master plan of baiting the knights by using Dark Amy was a profound success, as the Order never expected her to turn on them, especially the Dame Rebecca. With Dark Amy fulfilling her role to the best of her abilities, she ends up leveling and gaining the reward of having her mana increased by a hopping 20% off the bat.